How to beat Mecha Frieza. Uh, I've done how to beat videos before for Yu-Gi-Oh! And hey, why not do it for Dragon Ball Super, right? Especially if there seems to be a deck or a strategy that's problematic. Why not share some tips and tricks on how to deal with that problematic deck or strategy? Sharing knowledge is, part of the game, as well as part of the fun. We like challenges. Of course, we got Mecha Frieza. It allows you to make extra cards cheaper, as well as you can awaken faster. And the popular strategy right now to use with Mecha Frieza is a Great Ape strategy, as well as the GT strategy with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, or with Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And then we have the Ultimate Evil Majin Buu, which is a potential strategy you can use Mecha Frieza for. And there's other things you can use Mecha Frieza for, as long as the general concept is the same. If you're largely relying on extra cards as well as some energy accelerating cards, then you can play a lot of higher cost cards, a lot of 7 drops, for example. As you can see, this is an 8 drop, this here is a 6 drop, this is a 7, and then you got the 4s. So being able to do things sooner than later, is what Mecha Frieza can do right now. There are other leaders that can devastate your opponent just as fast, just as early. Personally, in my viewpoint, a Super Saiyan 3 Goku, to getting the 2 energies from your life, that right there puts it on par with Mecha Frieza, in my viewpoint. The little joke meme I have, I'll make the meme later, which is, can't lose to Mecha Frieza if you're immortal. Alright, so this is one way you can defend against not only Mecha Frieza, but any early game OTK strategy. This is the anti-OTK leader. Opponent's gonna have to try something slick, some strategy where they take you down to 3 life and then triple strike you, right? Because they can't double strike you and think that'll work, because you'll just awaken. The idea is to prevent you from awakening, because you need 2 or less life in order to awaken. And once you're awakened, you take no more life damage. You'll take card damage. You'll start milling from your deck, but that will buy you a couple turns where you can attack your opponent back. And since your opponent doesn't have the same condition where every time you deal them life damage, they mill instead. You're dealing them life damage, which means your chances of beating them is a lot higher. So again, can't lose to Mecha Frieza if you're immortal. Being able to resource your the Mecha Frieza, having more cards to utilize to build a board to attack your opponent's life points, because part of the strategy for Mecha Frieza is the whole self-awakening, which means they're going to be at 4 or less life. You want to get some damage in there. You want to play as many cards as possible. You definitely want to draw into your negates, right? You want to be able to stall longer until you can build up your mana, and then make a comeback and be able to defeat their board. Main thing is always focus on their life, because they're going to have roughly 4 or less. If they went off, 4 or less. If they didn't go off and they had a bad hand, then you have less to worry about. But if they go off, which is what we're focusing on, is the Frieza being awakened, then you just gotta focus on their life, end their life as soon as possible. And to show Trunks, here's an image. Can I zoom in? Might not be perfect, but here's Cell Leader See, there's 2 energies. His opponent has 2 energies. His leader is the set 2 future Trunks leader, and right here you see a whole bunch of combo cards, because you know you can always you get to draw for the when you combo you draw, right, for the effect of Trunks. And right here he was able to get his Trunks to 150,000 attack power, and more likely had critical, because I see his opponent has about 2 life, possibly, right? Might be 3. Looks at like 2 at first, but it's probably it might be 3. But either way, it's very hard to say. It does look like 2, but anyway, if it is 2, you know, a destructive chomp double strike combo into this, and guaranteeing that double strike goes through, boom, take those 2 life and win. You know, because the main thing was focusing on going at your opponent's life point. Because you see the Super Saiyan 4 Goku from GT, right, is on board. 2 energies, which means it only took 2 turns to get him on board. And you see, down to 2 life, so stuff happened for your opponent to get down to 2 life with Mecha Frieza, and all you have to do is just deal those 2 damages. You're already going to be able to attack because you already have a leader, so you just need 1 more attacker and then get those 2 attacks to go through, and you'll beat Mecha Frieza if your opponent's at 2 life. If your opponent's at 4, then you're going to need to incorporate double strike into the strategy, of course, to end them out. Just showing that, you know, Mecha Frieza clearly is beatable, or any early game strategy is beatable if you have made sure that you have some early game plays. So you see Trunks has some use, and Trunks was the one that defeated Frieza, Mecha Frieza, in the anime, so you know it was iconic and ironic to see. And I even did say in a post once that wouldn't be surprised if Trunks, which I was referring to this one, would beat or can beat Mecha Frieza consistently, right? Because it's based off of, you know, the anime idea. So moving on, you know, Goku Black can help you with ramp, because all you need is 2 energies just to trigger his effect to get the 3rd energy. So once you're in your 2nd turn and you play your 2nd energy, then you use Goku's Black's ability to take a life and turn into an energy. Now you have 3 energies to play with, and with 3 energies, you know, there's stuff you can do, of course. There's cards you can play, because typically you want to get to 3rd energy so you can play some strategy to give you a fighting chance, right? Against a strategy that requires maximum of 2 energies to go off. You need a way to counteract it, so you get the idea. If Frieza and ramps up their energy, you need the ability to ramp up your energy, right? Then we got the Green Goku. Both sides have double strike. His front side has awakened side. And again, right there, right off the bat, you already have something that can do 2 damage. Just gotta make sure that attack goes through. Boom, 2 damage against Mecha Frieza, which means they'll have at least 2 life left, right? Unless they're already at 2 life, then you can end them out. As long as they don't have negates, you can get that damage in, boom. So you already have the ability to double strike. Then if you play, you know, Saiyan Kaba, you know, for 1 red energy and take a life, so that way you can make him a double striker, and then do some comboing to guarantee his double strike damage goes through, as well as Son Goku's double strike damage goes through right there. In 1 or 2 turns, you can take out your opponent who's playing, you know, Mecha Frieza. Because again, you're focusing on the life points, because that'd be your main win condition. Because let's say you're in a scenario where you battle against Fuse Zamasu and he's awakened. Well, you won't be able to beat him by life points, you know, by dealing him damage to his life points and end them out if he has the 2 life left. So you're going to, and if let's say he has 20 cards in his deck, you need to deal 4 damage. 4 damage in order for him to mill those 20 cards, and for you to be able to win by just deck out. You have to deck him out in that scenario. once he's awakened. Because even not only battle damage, right, but even effect damage, like damage from an effect of a card, will trigger his ability of milling instead. So you won't be able, oh, I just burn him with a burn effect. It's still gonna mill. So you're gonna have to deck your opponent out. So that's why you gotta switch up your strategy. Instead of focusing on what your opponent has on board, you gotta focus at, you know, with Fuse and Zamasu, you gotta focus on their deck. It's like, well, in order for me to win, I gotta deck him out. I can't, you know, just attack his life and him out that way. I gotta deck him out. One thing I definitely recommend as a tip for that when you're going up against Fuse Zamasu is make sure you use certain effects to target his hand. Because the harder it is for your opponent to set up board and attack you, the easier it'll be for you to attack their leader, you know, Zamasu, and make them deck out. That's how I beat Zamasu, is by obviously decking out, but also targeting the hand. You know, I was using my green cell deck, targeting the hand to make sure he can't attack me and to just beat me before I even deck him out. Because I have to work a little extra to win by deck out than he has to by just attacking my life. So a little extra tip there for you. So Chilled, he's technically like a double striker, right? Because he attacks, he makes a token, so that's another attacker. So that's 2 attacks. You could potentially do 2 damage just by attacking the leader, right? Attack with the leader, 1 damage. Attack with the token. After he makes the token, attack with the token, another damage. Then the next turn, if you still have the token and you attack with him, you get another token. So now you have 2 extra. You have 2 attacks on top of his, you know, attacking with him. So now you have 3 attacks next turn, right? And in 2 turns, you know, you attacked twice. You did 2, up to 2. You did approximately 2 damage in the first turn, and then your second turn 3 damage. You know what I mean? So in total, in 2 turns, 5 damage. You know, if your attacks went through and hit your opponent. And of course, you know, by then, but of course, you need to make sure that they're strong enough to get their attacks. Because if Frieza's awakened, he's 15k. The tokens are 10k. The leader is 10k. Even on his awakened side, he's 10k. So that's not gonna. You can't just attack without boosting to, you know, to deal with that. You're going to have to make the leader weaker. I mean, you're gonna have to make your attacks stronger in order to get them through. But as you can see, you can essentially just attack and get more tokens, which means more attacks in there. And then you just, you know, throw in stuff like double strike to speed the process up. And that's another thing to think about, is that you're not using extra resources. You already have something. You already have a leader that's giving you resources, giving you attacks, and those attacks matter, especially against Mecha Frieza, because you're trying to take their life points down. You're definitely trying to make it where they have less life to use for themselves for their Mecha Frieza effect, as well as you're trying to get them down to the point where, you know, they run out of cards and you beat them. Then we have Super Saiyan 3 Goku. On his front side, you know, you get the 2 energies by using 2 life and pitching a card from your hand to the drop area. So right there you get some energy ramp, and then you can use that to play stuff like, you could play a blocker, especially if you got like a blocker, you know, with revenge. You could play, you know, he has Jirobi, which is a blocker with revenge, so that's useful there to help you stall long enough for your next turn. You know, you can start setting up your board. You can, you know, obviously use the 2 blue energies, for example, to play, no, not him, to, you know, to be able to play Mafuba, for example, which is a good counter right there. And that's if you're playing in a blue deck. If you're playing in another deck, you know, you're playing a yellow deck, a deck that plays yellow, then, and you get 2 yellows by Super Saiyan 3 Goku's ability, then, you know, you have 2 yellows to, you know, use 1 on a Crusher Ball, to use 1 on a Cold Bloodlust, or use 1 on Flying Nimbus, you know. So the fact that you could play at least 2 negates, or 2 responses, or 2 counters, as it were, right off the bat, because of Super Saiyan 3 Goku, is very useful. It's like, yeah, you don't have to play Mecha Frieza to deal with Mecha Frieza. You can play other leaders that can, give you Mecha Frieza like abilities to combat with Mecha Frieza. You know what I mean? Because even though you might have to pay for your cold bloodlust and your negates and whatnot, you have it. That's the most important thing. You at least have it. You have the ability to play them. You have the energy, and they're all cheap. They're all one drop, so it's not a problem. Early game, you know what I mean. The idea is to try to get to your third or fourth energy, so you can start playing stuff. You know, playing your combos, your strategies, specifically to attack your opponent's life and win the game. So you know, we got the Crusher Ball right there. We got the Unending Awakening, which is pretty useful because it gives your leader, if it's the Red Saiyan, 5k boost for the duration of the turn, not just for that battle, for that attack or anything, for the duration of the turn. So you can negate the attack and then boost by 5,000. So it makes it easier to combo. Like, you'll use up less cards in your hands to combo, obviously, which is always useful to be able to play one card, and then you don't have to use up a lot of other cards in your hands. Encouraging present Monaka, because again, double strike is very useful. The faster you deal damage, the better. And 2 attacks with 2 double strikers is 4 damage. That's half your opponent's life points. If they're already half their life points, especially in the Mecha Frieza scenario, you only need 2 double strike attacks to win. So you definitely wanna be able to do that. If your opponent went off and you were able to stall and defend yourself, and your opponent has any of these big threats here, right, any of these on board, since they don't have their high cost, as well as they don't have a barrier, for 1 green energy, bang, you can just destroy them for 1 green energy, because their costs will be a lot higher than the energies that was used to cast them or get them on the field, right? Because it's Mecha Frieza, makes things cheaper, easier to play. Father Son Gallic Gun, same scenario. Won't be destroying, but with 1 blue energy and 1 of anything, you can play this card and put any one of these big high cost threats on top of your opponent's, back into the hand. Since they're high cost, it'll take a while for them to get those cards back on the field. In the case of the Great Ape scenario, there'll be 2 of them. You just gotta obviously I suggest you to get rid of the double strike one, because he can deal 2 damage, so you rather reduce it down to 1 attacker that can only do 1 damage at a time. So you might want to get rid of the double striker in that scenario. If you have to choose one, I recommend the Bardock, but to each them, whatever is more of a problem for you. Again, if you have the right amount of energy, you can combo. You can do 2. You can get rid of the Bardock with the Father Son Gatling gun, and then use use the Gatling gun on the Vegeta Great Ape, and then use this to get rid of the double striker. The Bardock. Get rid of Bardock with this, and then use this to bounce back the critical Vegeta, and then right there for 3 energy, you got rid of two potential threats. That's if if your deck can obviously utilize green and blue. In a Vegito deck, these will be easier to cast. And again, you see this doesn't have barrier, and it has a high cost. Obviously there was a strategy to get it out onto the board and whatnot, and then by bouncing this back to the hand or even destroying it, you got rid of the threat. You don't have to worry about them drawing another copy of this from their deck when there's only 1 in their deck, and so on and so on. You get the idea. If they came at you, you negated, and you stalled to give yourself an extra turn, more likely their attack is going to be rested, and you can use obviously that Frieza if you're playing a yellow deck to destroy that rest mode threat. Take down him, take him down, take him down, take any one of these down. You just want to increase your chances of of being able to last longer in the game, so that way you can make a comeback. This is typical stuff that any competitive player, at least a competitive player, should already be thinking about. Already should have side deck cards, cards that they side in. Like this, these cards are low cost and they're early game, so that I can deal with any decks there that have some quick early game strategy. I already have outs to early game strategy, so that I can force the duel to go to mid to late game, where my deck shines the most, right? Common sense. That's why I get good. No one should be complaining. Common sense is if a deck does things early game, then you need to have early game plans for that. You need to have a strategy for early game. Don't just focus on your late game. Late game will happen if you stall long enough, so have your late game strategy, but make sure you have some early game cards to play with. And there's a lot of good early game 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop cards you can play with, like saying Kaba, double strike, right? Further destruction Champa. You can play this in any deck. You just need to pay 1 energy of anything because you're using it for its combo. You're not summoning it. Bodyguard Legend, it's a blocker, 15k, pretty decent, but the main thing is it's essentially a free blocker. But you can also attack with it, if you want to. It's a free attacker. Cast it for free, and then pay to play something, and then boom, attack your opponent. Try to get some double strike damage in there. If you combo it with destructive Champa, for example, you get some damage in there. Any blocker with revenge is useful. Just like these two, you see they're low cost, 3 and 2, so they're good for early games. Again, it's important to try to get at least 3 energies so you can play a lot of these cards, especially cards that can help you build a board, like Terrorcypher Goku, black, and Uncountable Mini Cell Jr. if you're running a Cell deck as your leader, right? So you can get multiple attackers on the field and get multiple attacks in. By getting multiple attacks in, your chances of reducing your opponent's life points to 0 is higher. Then we have Mysterious Presence Monaka. Decent card. Can't wait until they have a little more support so I can utilize it more, but it is a decent card. I like its effect. I just wish it didn't have the condition where you have to have no other battle cards. I hate that part, because this card is when you play this card, if you do not have any other battle cards except himself in play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards. See, it doesn't specify cost, just says battle cards. Place that card on top of your opponent's deck, and all cards under that card sent to the dropper. So obviously really good. This effect in other card games has always been good. The ability to put stuff on top of your a card that your opponent went through trouble putting on board and putting on top of the deck, so they have to redraw it. And if they don't have the ability to put it back on board, then they just lost a turn. They lost a turn to draw something and play something. So you're putting them back a turn, because now they gotta wait until next turn to draw the next card, and hopefully something that they can use and whatnot. Especially if they utilize their whole hand. They wasted so many resources to get their best boss monster on the field or something, right? And then you got rid of it off of one simple cheap card play. So this is something to think about. A good, nice little fun tech card. I like it, except I hate that you gotta have no battle cards, which means you gotta have your field gotta be empty. This gotta be the first thing you play, get its effect off, and then go from there. But it's doesn't hurt. It's not bad, especially if your opponent already established board and you still haven't established board, then it's not a bad card at all. Whoop, let me break your board and let me go in. And that's the and there's probably tons of other stuff. You guys should know more other stuff you can use to beat Mecha Frieza. I'm just giving you some stuff that I know that I use or play to beat Mecha Frieza or any early game strategy, because Mecha Frieza is not the only one that can play things early, play 7 drops early. He's just one of them that can. And that's the end of the video.